ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर्श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य तोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थेषु भिग्यस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्वस्ति अस्तु विश्वस्य खलः प्रसीदतां ध्यायन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया। मनश्च भद्रं भजता दधोक्षजे आवेश्यतां नो मतिरप्यहेतुकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 12, verse number 12. The teachings of Lord Bharat to King Rahul, and we read how he was explaining to him that the only reality is Vasudeva. Yad Vasudevam Kaviyo Vadanti, that those who are Kavi, who are learned scholar, realized people, they call this reality as Vasudeva. And in this particular verse, he explains how can we know this reality, what is the process. Earlier in the previous chapter also he has stated that. Now he again says this. So first there is a knowable, the Gaya, thing which we have to know or realize, and how to know it, that is the Videya, the process, Videya, the prescription. So he says, Rahugane tat tapsanayati na chejaya nirvapanad gurhadva na chandasanaiv jalagni surye vina mahat padarajo bhishekam. He says that, O King Rahugan, you should know that this reality cannot be known by austerities, simply by following certain laws. One cannot become realized. Nacha ijjaya, nor by performing yagyas, that one can do it. Or nirvapanad, or by giving up family duties, taking to renounced order of life, grihadva, or remaining in the family, chandasa, not by study of the Vedas, naiv jalagni suryai, nor by worshipping water, fire, sun. These various types of worships are there. So, says it cannot be known by these things. So how can it be known? Says vina mahat pada rajo abhishekam. It cannot be known without taking the dust or taking a bath in the dust from the feet of a great devotee. Which means that without the grace of a devotee it is not possible. In the scriptures there are two types of statements. There are negative statements and positive statements. There are statements which say niti, niti, not this, and there are statements that this is it, sarvam khalu idam brahma, atma vedam agra asit, sarvam atma evedam abhavat. Nehana nasti kinchana. So, to know something, we also have to know what it is not. And especially in Buddhism, they say this is a cow. So, what is the definition of cow? Cow is that which is different from anything which is not a cow. That's, they call it swalakshana. In Nyaya they give a definition that cow is that which has blanket and legs and whatever. But this is the definition of Buddhist, because they cannot define anything by using anything else. So everything is moving, everything is changing. So this is one of the principles of Buddhism is swalakshanam, swalakshanam. Everything is its own characteristic, its own definition. It's also called apohavad, removing everything. So if you want to know God, how to know God, because God is not visible to us. So then one of the way of knowing is that you don't accept something which is not God as God. So is a human being God? No. Is animal God, is earth God, is water God, is house God, is your relatives God, your job God, your money God. So you have to give up your attachment to these things, then you will see God. And this is the process of neti neti. Because if you start remaining attached to these things, then it is not possible to see it. You can only see one thing at a time. You don't see two things. You only have one knowledge at one time. So as in the story of Arjuna trying to shoot the bird, the eye of the bird. So if you have to shoot the eye of the bird, you cannot see something else and then shoot. You have to see only that. So if you want to know God, then you have to give up all other things. Otherwise not possible. So people have various concepts. Spirituality is very popular now. They say that this is the age of aquariums and spirituality will spread all over, right? There is Aditi. This is the, which age is now going on Aquarius?
Well, that's what they call it, yes.
That is for the?
That's what they call it in Western astrology.
Yeah, Aquarius. And this is supposed to be very spiritual.
It's humanitarian for sure. That's awareness, this universal knowledge.
So people will become realized now because of the Aquarius days.
Hope for the best.
So different people have so many ideas of getting spiritual realization. All types of yogas are there. So he says that none of these things can work. When it comes to knowing God, there is only one thing which works. Nothing else works. And there is a reason that God does not reveal Himself to everybody. Naham prakasa sarvasya yogamaya samavrita. Krishna says that I don't reveal myself to everybody. I remain covered by the yogamaya. He has a curtain, so he stays behind the curtain. And this curtain is not transparent. You cannot see beyond it. So he's like in the olden time the queens were going with the cloth around them. You may have seen sometimes in the movies that the queen is walking and there are 10 women around her and they're having a big cloth. So she was not seen by anybody. They were known as Asuryam Pashya, that even sun was not able to see them. So God is like that. He remains covered. Because why should He reveal to people who have no interest in Him? So Naham prakasa sarvasya yogamaya samavita. Mudhoyam na bhijanati. So the foolish people do not know me, they do not understand me. So He remains covered and He is known only to His devotees, people who love Him. Only to them He reveals Himself. Because if you love somebody, then you cannot hide from that person. Everybody wants that somebody should be there to whom I can reveal my heart. Everybody has that desire, at least to have one person with whom you can talk heart to heart. And God is also not an exception in that. He also likes to reveal Himself. So that's why He says to Arjuna, Sarvabhuyatam bhuya shrunumi paramabhuja. So He says, Ishtosi me dridham, tato vaksham taitam. He says, because you are my Ishta. Usually we call Krishna as our Ishta, Ishta Devata. Krishna is telling Arjuna as his Ishta. So just as we like God, we like to worship Him, we like to please Him, we like to see Him, devotees. So He also likes His devotees in the same way. So devotee is His Ishta. So Bhagavan Bhaktiman. Bhagavan is a devotee of His devotee. So therefore He says, Ishto Sri me dridhamiti. So you are my very dear friend, desirable, likeable. Therefore I am telling you the secret. So it is only a devotee who knows the secret of God, and it is only he who can give God. So devotee has the key to the God. So that's why He says that He cannot be known by anything else. Otherwise you can do yagyas, you can do sacrifices, chanting of the mantra, everything else you can do. So vina mahat pad rajobhishekam. So without the grace of a devotee, it is not possible. So therefore Vishwanath Chakravarti writes, Etat praptisya mahat kripa avirbhutaya bhaktiya vinana bhavati iti dvabhyam. Says he is explaining that this is not this what was described in the previous verse. He says one cannot achieve this, realize, know this reality unless one has bhakti, and that bhakti comes by the grace of devotee, by the kripa of devotee. So this is being described here in the two verses. He rahugana etadukta lakshanam trividham jnanam tapadibhir na prapnoti. He says this knowledge, that absolute reality manifests in three ways. He says this, you cannot know this by austerities, etc. So although these things are written in the scriptures, people read and still they do not understand. It's not that Bhagavatam was not there before. Jiva Goswami commented on it, or the it's not Chakravarti commentary on it. It was known, but still people don't understand that absolute reality manifest as Bhagavan, Brahman and Brahman. Still people are not clear. And they may be even speaking about this verse. So this is because unless one has the grace, it is not possible to know this. Tataha tapaschit ekagriyam ijya vedikam karma nirvapanam annadi samibhagya griham tannimitta parokkaradi chando vedadhyasa. So he says tapasya, austerity means trying to fix the mind, making mind concentrated on one object. That is called tapasya. That is the idea behind doing austerities. That you take some inconvenient or uncomfortable position voluntarily, and in that situation you remain unperturbed, undisturbed, peaceful. That is the meaning of tapasya. So sometimes we also hear that tapsa kinna siddhati, that why you are saying that it is not possible to know without tapasya. It is said that with tapasya you can attain anything, austerity can give you anything. So that austerity, when it is performed as devotional act, because we read in the second canto that Brahma, when he was born on the lotus navel, and he was sitting on top of this flower, he wanted to know from where I have come, and he could not figure it out. So then he heard the message, tapa tapa, that perform tapasya. So he did tapasya, but that tapasya was just another word for devotion, because he chanted the Gopal mantra. So that is sometimes the word tapasya is also used for bhakti. You have Gopal Tapani Upanishad, the same word tap becomes tapani. It's actually a word bhakti of Gopal. But the word used is tapa. Or Nrsimha Tapani Upanishad. So that when it is said here tapasya or sacrifice or charity, or this means without devotion, that is to be understood. If it is with devotion, then naturally it will give the result, because it is devotion which gives realization of God. Bhaktyam avijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvatam. By bhakti, by devotion, people can understand me as I am. Vedikam karma, so ijya means Vedic karma, Agnihotra, and nirvapanam, annadi samibhaga. Nirvapan means giving charity of food, and griham tannimitta parokkaradi, and house, family life means doing parokkar, welfare. So Chando Vedabhyas, Chanda means study of the Vedas. So Jalagni Surya, Tatkaranakat Tapascharnani. So this Jalagni Surya, it also means doing austerities with them or worshipping by using them. So he says none of these things can give realization of the Absolute, but only the worship. So why is that? The grace of the devotees can give. Says yatra uttam shloka gunanuvada prastuyate gramya katha vighata nishedamano nidunam mumukshor matim satim yachati vasudevi. Says when it is said that the feet, dust from the feet of the devotees means doing service to them. So when you do the service to devotees, then you are in their association, and in the association of the devotees there are always katha. Satam prasangonam virya samvido bhamanti hitkarna katha rasayana katha tajjoshna dasu apudoga vrapana so Shraddha Bhakti Rati Anukramishya. Whenever there are devotees, then in their association there is katha, this talks about God. This is the solution for the material disease. So Bhavanti Hritkarna Rasayana Katha. So this katha, this story, these talks, and we heard story yesterday about Valmiki. So these are very inspiring to hear this talk. So whenever the devotees meet, then they have talk about God and His devotees, and that cleans the heart. That is like a tonic for the sick heart. Everybody has heart disease. So therefore we are very weak-hearted because heart is sick. It's not pumping enough blood. So then this tonic makes the heart strong, like Arjuna Rista. So he says the same thing here, Yad Uttama Sloka Gunanuvada Prastuyate. So yatra, whenever the devotee, there is Uttam Sloka Gunanuvada. There is talk about the qualities of the Lord. And this, what it does is, he says Gramya Katha Vigata. Then there is no materialistic talk there. Otherwise people who go to parties, all types of useless talk going on. Everybody is talking. You don't sit quietly. This is the biggest pastime of people. So, but what is the meaning of all this talk? There is no meaning. You speak, you meet people for hours and hours, then what is the outcome of that? It's nothing. Except disturbance for the mind. So this is called Gramya Katha. Gramya means the village talk. Literally it means village talk. This means village people who are illiterate, not very educated. So they just talk of their own household things. They sit down. I remember in the child, village people sit down, they have their hookah in the center. And they're just talking something. They are talking about politics, they know nothing yet. Everybody has something to say. In those days there was no newspaper, no television, no radio, nothing was there. So somebody hears little bit from here and there. So their talk is very limited about their family things. So he says this type of talk comes to an end when you meet a devotee. And Nishevya Mano Anudinam Mukshor Mati Satim Uchiti Vasmo. If everybody hears this talk, if a person hears, especially a person who is desiring to get freedom from bondage, hears this, then his mind becomes purified and becomes fixed on God. Otherwise it is not possible to fix your mind on God. You can fix your mind on other things. Very much we are used to that. But you try to fix it on God or on the mantra, then mind revolts immediately. Says, what are you trying? Are you crazy? So somehow then you pass your time, try to fulfill the duty like a ritual, and then once it is done, then you feel relief. I did it. So why it happens, why we feel relief when we have completed the quota of our chanting? Because the mind does not like it. If mind likes it, then you will feel happy. That's a chant and be happy. But people actually feel happy after they have chanted. When they have completed, then they feel happy. Oh my God, I'm over with it for the day. So this is because the mind revolts. Mind does not take any interest in it. Otherwise one will relish it while chanting. Because this is the highest thing you can do in your tongue. Instead of talking nonsense with the tongue, you chant the name of God. And it is very pleasurable and relishable. So this does not happen because our mati is asati. Our mind is unchaste. Sati means chaste. Sati is the word they use these days when a woman burns herself with the dead body of the husband. They say she committed sati. But actually the word sati means chaste. So at present our mind is unchaste. Why? Because mind, the husband of mind is Krishna. Because he is the Rishikesh. He is the Chitta Adhisthata. He is the presiding deity on the Chitta. But you never put the mind on him. So just as an unchaste woman thinks of other men than the husband, that is the meaning of unchaste. Unchaste woman means who is thinking of enjoying with other men other than the husband. That is called unchaste. These days people may not accept that. But this is what chastity and unchastity means. So chaste woman never thinks of any other. The statement in Ramayana that Sita said that even in my dreams I cannot think of any other man. So dreams means where you don't have your buddhi functioning, discrimination. Because in the dreams anything comes. So when even in the dream a woman cannot think of any other man, that is the sign of chastity. There is no question of when she is awake. Because she knows. So our mind should be like that. It should be thinking of Krishna. This is what Krishna says, that this is the secret. When he says, Sarva Guhyatam Bhuya Shrunu Me Paramam Vachan, that I am going to give you the secret, what does he say? He says, Man Mana. Everybody says, he says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. They forget what he said before that. Actually he said, Man Mana. Simple thing. He says, put your mind on me. This is the mantra. And this is the meaning of mantra. Mantra is actually to put your mind on Krishna. So he says manmana. So at present our mind is not Krishna mana. It is Maya mana. It is on other things other than Krishna. So we have to think that now where is my mind going? This is the meaning of being, what do you call?
Aligned.
What is the word? We are always talking of being aware. Aware. So being aware, not only where, that you become aware of the mind, but become aware where is it going. And then you think, what is the benefit of it? You are sitting in your shop, your mind is thinking so many things. After 5 minutes you think, that, okay, I thought of all these things. What did I gain from it? What is my benefit? Or you lie down in your bed, you are not falling asleep, your mind is going here. Then you think, okay, what do I gain? Why I cannot think of Krishna or chant? So this is, you have to become aware like that. So we are all the time dreaming and monologue going on inside. You have to stop that and you have to think, okay, what do I benefit? Is this what I want in my life? Is this the purpose of my life? So that is the meaning of mind being unchaste. that it is thinking of all useless things, nonsense things, instead of it should think only of Krishna. And then we have mental problems. We have problems only because of that. Because it only entangles you in useless goals, useless desires, useless activities, useless relations, which have no meaning. That's why Bharat was very strong. He says this is all unreal. He says mithya, it doesn't even exist. For this reason he is saying, he says all these things. It's only vyavahar moolam nirupyata satkriyanme tannam purana. He says, where does this exist? All this thin, fat reality. He says they don't even exist. Asat, he used. For this reason. Not that they don't exist, but without devotion, there is no meaning in them. I'm also catching cold. So therefore the solution is good association. This is the meaning that why Shastra is talking about satsanga. Because our life depends on our association. The type of association we have, that's what we become. So it is for this reason that Shastra says that taj durjan sangam, that give up bad association and have sat samagam, have the association of good people. Because this other association is not going to help you in any way. Although we are very much attached to that. People spend so much time on Facebook. They sit down hours and hours. And there is useless things they write. If you open it and see what they write, it's just useless. I did this, I went there, I saw this. So what is the outcome? What is the benefit? So that's why we read that Esa buddhi matam buddhi manisha cha manishina yad satyam amrita martyani hai mam praptasi mam ritam. He says this is the intelligence of an intelligent person. This is the smartness of a smart fellow. That by this temporary material body one attains me, the permanent reality. So that will happen because our time is limited. That will happen when we will negate things which are not related to our. We have to first, of course, make this as our goal. We have to like it. So that begins with satsanga. That satsanga is the beginning of spiritual life. Without satsanga, without good association, nobody can become devotee. Because, and what is satsanga? Satsanga is again not that it again get into prajalpa. Satsanga means there is only talk of Vasudeva. So then your mind will become chaste. Satim matim yachati Vasudeva. Then your mind will become fixed on Vasudeva. And once the mind becomes fixed on Vasudeva, then that is the perfection. That is the perfection of life. Then all problems are solved. So, in the previous verse he said that one should take dust from the feet of the great devotees. So, great, he didn't use the word devotee, he used the word mahat, means great personalities, great sadhus. So, who are these great personalities? Who are these great sadhus? He says, Techa Mahanta, Krishna Bhakta Eve, iti abhiganjati. He says these sadhus, holy people, saintly people are none else but devotees of Krishna. Krishna Bhakta. So that is the meaning of sadhu. There are various types of sadhus. There are Naga Babas. Types. So real sadhu means devotee of Krishna. Only that association will help. Otherwise you go and then you are doing all this chilam.
What means the word chilam?
Chilam is pipe.
Yeah, a pipe means pipe.
This mud thing made of clay in which you put the stuff. And it's called chilam. So then you are also doing bum bum bole. So that is not satsang. Yatra mahatpad rajo abhisheke sati yatra mahatsuva gunanam bhaktvatsalyadinam anuvada puna puna katana. So when you take this association of these mahat people, these devotees, then what happens that there is talk of great devotees there is talk of the Lord, how he is Bhaktavatsala, he likes his devotees, how he protects his devotees. These things are repeatedly spoken. Then mumukshor moks kamasyapi satim mokshicharaiti. So then he says one who is desiring liberation, his mind becomes chaste. So this is very interesting comment he makes. He says, what do you mean the one who is desiring his mind becomes chaste? His mind is already chaste because he is desiring liberation. So he says that even the mind of a person who is desiring becomes chaste means he gives up the idea for liberation and becomes devotee. Which means even desiring liberation is unchaste. And this is the philosophy of Bhagavatam, because in the Bhagavatam in the very beginning it is said that dharma projita kaitavatra karma dharmat saranam sata. And Bhagavatam gives up all deceptive ideas, even up to liberation, even salvation is deception according to Bhagavatam. So when he says that muksho, he says muksho here means even who is desiring liberation, because people who are desiring liberation, they are not interested in bhakti. So they also give up their idea of just looking for liberation and they surrender to Krishna. Satim Siddham Matim Vasudevi Vasudevi. So what is the purity of heart? Desire to be devotee. And what is the impurity of heart? Any other desire other than being devotee. These are all impurities, various types of impurities, various levels of impurities, various types of diseases. These are all heart diseases. So much variety. So there is only one cure for all disease. Like in Ayurveda, if you don't know any cure for the disease, just take Trifla. It will do something. It's not going to harm you. At least it will help somewhat. So like that, there is only one cure for all disease, and that is just hear Krishna Katha, and all disease will go away. So now he tells his own story, finally. Says, Aham pura bharato nam raja Vimukta drishta sruta sangha bandha Aradhanam bhagavati hemano mrigo bhavam mriga sangad hatartha. He says, my dear king Raghuvan, just listen. You think you are a king. He says, I was Bharat before. I was emperor of this country. I'm sure when Raghuman heard this, his eye would have opened wide. He was Bharat, famous, from whose name the country got his name as Bharatavarsha. So he says, Aham Pura Bharato Nam Raja. He says, I was King Bharat earlier. And Vimukta Drishta Sruta Sangha Bandha. He says, I was completely renounced in all material pleasures which could be seen or heard. Because he gave up his kingdom even as a young person. So Vimukta Drishta Sruta Sangha Bandha. He says, I was absolutely free from any attachment to anything available in this life or available in next life in heaven. And Aradhanam Bhagavata Iyamana. And I was absolutely absorbed in the worship of Bhagavata, Krishna. And then what happened? He says, Mrigo Bhavam Mriga Sangata. I became a deer because of association with the deer. Such dangerous thing. People keep pets. Next life they will become pet. Then this pet will be petting them. So he says that I became a deer and I fell down from my goal. So Hatartha. So that story we already read, how he became attached to the fawn, this baby deer, and then gave up his sadhana. Mahyam स्वपराधिने महापावराय अपि एवं ज्ञानम उपदिशन परम कृपालु को भवानी अत्यक्षायाम ahamiति. So he says, you had asked me earlier that who are you, and you are giving instruction to me who have offended you, you are so gracious, who are you? So now he is explaining that this is what I am. Of course, from Vyavaharic point of view, from worldly point of view. Drishte Srute cha Vyavahare Sang Bandha Asakti Lakshana Bandha Muktoye. Says I was absolutely renounced in everything. And Tadapi Deva Dasavdhano Abhavam. And then somehow, by misfortune, I became careless. And then this is. So this story is very educating, that even such a great Mahabhagavat, with little carelessness, he got into problem. Not to speak of us. So how careful we have to be. It's also saying that we have to always observe our mind. We have to be always aware where my mind is going now. And what is the benefit? Is it benefiting me in my process, in my goal, in my sadhana? Or is it just being an obstacle and a waste of time? To always be aware like that. You get unnecessary entanglement. Somebody said to me, then I'm wasting my mind on why did he say this? Forget it, let him say. Do your job. So somebody makes a remark and what he said about me. We are so much worried who says what about me. Half of our life goes only in thinking this, what somebody said. So he says that I became deviated from the process because of this little problem. And Sama Smritir Mig Dehe Pivira Krishnarchan Prabha no Jahati Atoham Jan Sangada Sango Vishankamano Aviritascharam. Because he asked, who are you walking like an outlaw? He says, the thing is that by the power of my worship to Krishna, that memory does not leave me. I still remember my life as a deer and my life as King Bharat. So Sama Smritir Mrig Dehe Pivira, even in the deer body, I did not forget this. Krishna no jahati athoham jana sangada sangha. He says, therefore I am wandering alone, avoiding all association. Absolutely. And Vishankamano Abhivritasya. Says, therefore I am always worried and going around covered like this. So hiding. I said I am wandering hidden, not trying to reveal myself. Just as we read yesterday how Valmiki was keeping himself hidden. Nobody knew that he is such a great devotee. So Bharat is also saying this, that he is keeping himself. Why? Because he does not, he says, if I reveal, then people will come to me and I don't know what can happen. I'm so scared of this association. Sri Krishnarcham Brashtamapi Uddharati Ityahasai. So he comments that the worship of Krishna uplifts even someone who falls down. Like Krishna says, Kanteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashrati nahi kalyan krit kasyut durgatim tata gacchati. He says, Arjuna, you let it be known that my devotee never perishes. In 6th chapter also he says that one who takes to auspicious process, nothing bad can happen to him. So this seems very unbelievable that some animal can remember the past life. Because animals don't have such mind, and in which language is he going to think? Right? If there is an animal and he is remembering the past life, means he is to think. So is he thinking in Sanskrit or in English? He has to think in language, right? So that means this deer also remember the language. So he is basically a human being in the body of a deer. How problematic must be that? In one way we think it is so great that he remembers, but actually try to think of it. How painful it must be that you know all this and now you sit here like a stupid dumb fellow. So then this is the last verse of this chapter. Tasman naro sanga susanga jata jnanasineha vivrikna moha harim tadiha katham sutabhyam labdha smritir yatiya aparamadhvanaha. So therefore, what a person should do, that he should take the association of great people, Mahapurushas, and then acquire knowledge. And this knowledge is like the sword by which you cut the knot of ignorance and bondage. And then, by engaging in the hearing and chanting of the pastimes of the Lord, one will have memory of the Supreme Lord. And then very easily one will cross over this forest of material existence and attain the Lord. So Harim Tadiha Katham Srutabhyam Labdha Smriti. So therefore hearing is the key. One has to hear regularly, and if there is a possibility, one also speaks about it, recites it. So this is enough. Labdha Smriti, then one will always be in remembrance of the Lord. And then such a person will Yati Paramadhvana, and one will cross this jungle of attachments and attain Lord Hari. So he says this is the essence. Because we read earlier that Rahuguna, he was going to meet sage Kapila, and he wanted to know who is the person to be surrendered to, who is to be worshipped. So he has made it clear that you should just surrender to Krishna and worship him. Take to devotion. Asango vyavahara anasakti. So asanga means detachment, which means that it's not that we run away from the world or run away from our responsibilities. We have to remain in them. We have to execute them, but without attachment. Just like the bank clerk who deals with money all day, but in the evening he goes home. He is not attached to that money. So like that we have to deal with all our friends, relatives, co-workers, boss, employees, whatever. But no attachment. Attachment is only for Krishna. That's all. So asango vyavahara nasakti, no attachment to the worldly things, worldly objects, worldly relations. And susanga sadhusi asakti. So where should our asakti should be? Only in devotees. So it's not that you don't have attachments, you have attachment to devotee. And jatam jnanam eva. So this will give knowledge. From this the knowledge will come. And jnanam eva asi, and that knowledge is the sword to cut the gordon's knot of ignorance. Tena chinna moha. So by that you cut your bewilderment, confusion, attachments. And adhone sansar margasya ati param harim. You will go to Lord Krishna who is on the other side, on the sword of the material world. So iti sarartha darshinyam harshinyam bhakta chetsam panchamo dvadasa adhyaya samyata samyata. This is the end of 12th chapter, Sarartha Darshan commentary by Sri Srimad Chakravarti Thakur. We'll stop here if there is any question.
Could one say that a person who's Paratukatuki is so compassionate that he takes a risk to enlighten people, even if they may be materialistic, that he's on a higher platform than Bharat, who avoided any kind of association for his own purity, to not become influenced?
Yeah, Krishna talks also that one who teaches Gita to my devotees, he praises him. But one must be qualified for that. Not that you become Pardukha Dukhi and you yourself are Dukhi. So one has to be qualified for that. Pardukha Dukhi is not something which you have to imitate. This is inspiration from God.
At the end, Babaji, who revealed himself as Bharat was someone else who I didn't catch.
Well, this king was Bharat, then he became deer in second life. In third life he was son of a Brahmana. He was known as Jad Bharat now, because his name is not mentioned. So he's same Bharat, but instead of calling him King Bharat, he's called Jad Bharat. So he's revealing his past.
So then this dust on the feet of the devotee are in the form of hearing and serving
Yes. Right. Hari Bol.
Right.